specifically, but I think that Peychaud lends itself a lot to rye cocktails.
Agreed. I love to think about different sugar sources for these too,
Mm-hmm.
because uh, we did a tequila old fashioned and reached, obviously for agave nectar. Something trying to get a little New England flavor, a little maple syrup goes well.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't done much with it, but it's really on the rise. Is uh, monk fruit, or
I
is
haven't
a
I haven't played
keto
with that.
friendly alternative. Packs a little less texture than some of these other things we're talking about. But yeah, just if you just remember that simple breakdown, and I always remember our on the board at our little local bar down the street drink, um, that when they would
That
post
little place.
bitter sugar water spirit, like
Yeah.
it's kind of all you need to know. Plug and play, Mr. Potato Head
Mm-hmm.
from there, So um,
And it's important to understand that these are just, these are two people that do this for a living, but it's also our opinions. If you plug and play these ingredients and substitute here and there, that's the bar is your
well,
playground.
I'm remembering like nights long ago before I bartended professionally and played a little music, and we'd come back to whoever's house after at 2 in the morning and want to make drinks, and you'd be like, "What's here?" And that I wish I knew then what I know now in terms of making drinks anyway, because we fumble around with a book, and that's how I had my first Rob Roy. It's just sort of a Scotch Manhattan variant or whatnot. So
Everyone had that bottle of vermouth sitting on their counter for a
right.
decade, right?
Well, it reminds me to say, listen, with your vermouth, if you got the kit, you have nips, and you probably are going to use it up on the next drink. But when we move into making the Manhattan, treat that vermouth like it's wine after it's open. I mean, it can sit out for the duration of making drinks, but it should spend its night in cold storage.
Yeah.
Keep it refrigerated. Um, shall we go on and make a Manhattan?
I would love to make a Manhattan. And I was gonna say I'm also gonna use some Cinzano.
Juice bomb. Love it.
It's you know it's readily available. It's delicious. The Carpano Antica that people got in their kits is a phenomenal vermouth. Um, but if you're trying to make this at home and not spend as much money, I think Cinzano is a good bang for your buck for sure.
Yeah, I grew up with Martini and Rossi around too, which is always sort of a favorite of mine. And that one's,
Oh,
I
sure.
think, fun too, because it has you sort of want to pick bottle size based on how much you use it. You could always find those little half bottles of Martini so easily.
Oh yeah, that's you found those everywhere for a long time. Cinzano just kind of replaced it somehow, but yeah, I love Martini and Rossi too. I think that's like Martini and Rossi to me is like uh, Angostura meets vermouth a little bit.
Yeah, yeah.
So we're gonna make this Manhattan. I see a lot of recipes, or I watch a lot of bartenders or in bars do like a splash of vermouth to their whiskey as if it's a martini, which is fine. It's up to everyone's discretion. I really like a 2-to-1 ratio. I think it's going to yield the most delicious drink, the softest drink, uh, depending on your spirit, obviously. But this is a very spicy rye. So you really want a full ounce of vermouth. So we're going to do 2 ounces of the Rittenhouse and a full ounce of the sweet vermouth. And I want to stick with the Angostura bitters again. You could add a couple of drops of an orange bitters. You could do a splash of Peychaud bitters if you want. I like 3 to 4 good dashes of the Ango. the OG, if you will. And I also have both chilled glasses, and I think I'm also gonna go with the low boy, just because
I'm
it's easy.
I'm gonna have mine up, and just getting a little chill on my glass by throwing an ice cube in there.
I'm just clumsy, so I'm just gonna go with the with this. Um, okay, this is the same. You could let this sit for a little while as is before you start stirring it, but there the sugar content is coming from the sweet vermouth, so you don't really need to let everything meld together. The stirring is going to do it for you. And if you want to know how long you should stir, I think it depends on how much ice you put in. It depends on your stirring instrument. You want to feel your glass or your chiller getting cold. You want to see visible ice line go down.
You can actually feel that moment, right? You know, when
You can feel it.
you
Yeah.
know, the ice relaxes is kind of how I think of it. And
When I put in the ice, it's up to here, and now it's down here. That tells me that it's probably waterized enough. Jackson, do you like to garnish your Manhattans with a cherry or with a twist?
my mom took them with a cherry. Well, when I was growing up, she had to start taking them with 2 cherries because otherwise she didn't get to have one. So I go with cherry
Okay.
myself, but whatever floats your boat. And of course, you can do both.
I'm going to do both. I'm going to go crazy and do both.
And you know, it's funny because you know we're making hopefully well-made Manhattans together. People are wondering what a perfect Manhattan is, and you know what's in the book is that this is a Manhattan, and a dry Manhattan is with dry vermouth instead of sweet, and a perfect one splits the difference.
Right.
But it's always a charged thing when somebody asks, "Is your something in the bar perfect?" Because it doesn't necessarily mean is it good.
Is it well done?
Is it, yeah, is it the one that, I mean, this was from a time when compromise wasn't a dirty word, I guess, right? So, so when you
Exactly.
split the difference, it was considered perfection. Maybe we'll get back there one Manhattan at a time. I don't know, but cheers to you,
This looks
Sabrina.
delicious. Cheers to you, Jackson.
All right, gonna go to
That
the
is delicious.
chat for, oh,
Awesome.
2 to 1, so good. And it's like,
So good.
to me, that's like the starting point. And I can see people who make a case with like maybe a whiskey that's got um, a little less to say. You know, that
Right.
you might want to leave some space in that conversation by going down to 3 to 1. But you know, one of my favorite things to do is to blast them 50-50.
50-50.
You know, and then this rye will still sings at that relationship with some sweet
Especially with a
vermouth.
vermouth like the Cinzano.
Hmm. Um, okay, just checking the chat here. Come on, friends. I thought an old fashioned needed to be muddled. Well, we have a little bit of a late joiner. It doesn't have to be muddled, but let me just say that in that era, when sort of picking the story back up in the late 19th century, in that era that things got fancy fruits got around that old fashioned cocktail, and eventually they sort of fell into it. And that was an old fashioned. That was sort of the predominant version of an old fashioned, of this sort of orange and cherry laying and sugar to make almost like a punch base, that could have like really young whiskey on top of
Yeah.
it. And is why that version sort of emerges through Prohibition as, you know, sort of like what a generation's drank. And I still, when I am in Wisconsin, get a brandy old fashioned with fruit in it, I'm psyched, you know.
Yeah.
But we sort of struck back at, hey, what's the origin of this drink? And when we looked at it and thought more about it, these cleaner versions of it with just a simple twist, and even to go from that tradition, which I love, of muddling the sugar to make that drink, and realizing, hey, if we get the sugar and water together first and then make that the base of the drink, it's just a better drink. So it's a leaner, cleaner. It's not just tradition, sort of a mix of tradition and best practice, I guess, and that becomes the standard of the age.
When I first started making old fashions, I was taught to muddle the cherry and the bright red cherry and the orange and add soda water. And to speak to what you were just saying, I later learned if you insist on adding soda water, it's just a splash to make that sugar, bitters, cherry combined before you add everything else. It's not a top. It's
Right.
it's part of the slurry on the bottom.
Great word. Yeah, as the gas releases, right, it all kind of comes together in that soup.
Yeah.
But I think we prefer, for those of you at home interested in making drinks a little bit more like we do now, these are them.
Here they are.
Here they are. What other drinks do you like to make with rye whiskey, Sabrina? And especially as relates to what sours, now that I've gotten a bottle of Rittenhouse in the hands of so many people, what sweet sour drinks can they make besides these two stirred sultry ones?
I mean, I'm a huge fan of a straight up whiskey sour. You can turn anything into a Collins by putting soda water into it, and I love a long drink with whiskey.
So what would your proportions be on like a rye Collins?
A rye Collins, I would probably do 2. I'm always a 2-ouncer on the major spirit, and then I like to do equal parts sugar and lemon. For other Collins, I might do a lemon lime split, but for rye, I think I would do a lemon, 3/4 of an ounce lemon, 3/4 of an ounce is simple. Good shake, tall glass, just topping it off with that soda water, giving it that nice foam.
That
That's a
sounds
really
delightful. And we're just
drink to me.
soda water away from being able to make that with the ingredients we've got on hand. I want to let everybody know that this is being recorded and will be up on YouTube. So if you feel like you want to come back to it and have us with you while you make your second, third, fourth Manhattans and old fashions, great. Sabrina, thanks so much for taking this time. Really great to get to have a drink with you.
For having me.
And yeah, I can't wait to do this in person.
You.
Yeah. So that's Cocktail Club.
Do this in person.
And join us again every Thursday at 7 p.m. Next week, we've got the great connector, Nick O'Connell, and we'll be making a couple of classic gin drinks. Make sure to follow the link from our sign-in page to the Gordon's Wine and Spirits site to pick up the Boston.com gin cocktail kit. You'll be supporting Off Their Plate and getting everything you need for next week's Boston.com Cocktail Club. Thanks again, Sabrina. Great to see you.
Thank you so much, Jackson.
Bye, everybody.